a story of two Melissas and how I'm eating pressure washing crow on a Saturday. I am here in Mason, Ohio. Fortunately, on this Saturday, I had a church meeting just a few minutes ago, so I didn't have to go out of my way. This is the story of Melissa 1 and Melissa 2. This house belongs to Melissa number 1. I was scheduled to wash this house last Friday. When I was 1 minute away, Melissa texts me and says, "I'm sorry, but we're going to have to reschedule." Interestingly enough, it wasn't Melissa 1 who had texted me, it was Melissa 2. But I thought it was Melissa number 1. She said she had to reschedule because the mulch guy was showing up and she didn't want to interfere with his work and vice versa. I responded and said, "No big deal. We'll reschedule." So I went on to another wash. This was last Friday. As a side note, it's worth noting that I am now using 2.3 injectors on the rig. I took some time last night, Friday night, after work, to change out all of my injectors. I had been using 2.1 injectors for both the 10 machine and the 8 machine. And now that we are approaching June here in Ohio, I suppose everyone's approaching June regardless of where you live. God, Mike, you're such an idiot. I'm wondering if the 2.3 is going to work. And this house has some dirty, dirty sides to it. Back to the story of two Melissas. Okay, where was I? Oh yes. Melissa 1 was scheduled for last Friday. Melissa 2 was scheduled for this week. Melissa 2 sends me a text message just as I'm about to approach Melissa 1 last Friday and says we need to reschedule. In the meantime, Melissa 1, who took the day off work, is wondering where I am. And I had no idea. La-da-dee-da, la-da-dee-dee-da. The whole weekend goes by, and I never heard anything from either Melissa, assuming all is well. Then on Monday of this past week, Melissa number 1 texts me and says, "Where were you on Friday? I waited all day. I took the day off. You failed me fresh." Well, she didn't say that part. But it was obvious that she was upset. It took me about 5 minutes to put together what was going on because I was thinking, Melissa number 1, you messaged me and said you didn't want me to show up. You said the mulch guys were coming. This is not on me, it's on you. How could you be so foolish, Melissa number 1? It took me a few minutes to put it all together, but after looking at the text messages, I realized that I had gotten the Melissas confused. And I began to debate within my own head, should I even tell Melissa number 1 what had happened? I mean, like, this story is so unusual and so unlikely, she probably won't even believe me. You've heard me say before, never ruin a good apology with a terrible excuse. I sent her the screenshot of my conversation with Melissa number 2 and said, "You're not going to believe this, but here goes." And I shared the story. I don't think she believed me. So when I got here and she asked me to give the deck a once-over, I chose not to charge her anything. Maybe that'll make me feel a little bit better about being such a screw-up. Well, it does appear that the 2.3 injector is going to work just fine. That was pretty dirty, and now it is not. So the reason we switch over from a 1.8 or a 2.1 injector to a 2.3 injector is because as the summer months approach us and temperatures get into the 80s and 90s, the lower orifice, 1.8, 2.1, they tend to kill more flowers and shrubs because they do not dilute the SH as much as the 2.3 injector. It shoots the same amount of chemical, but the water flow is greater with a 2.3 injector. Obviously, it's 2.3 millimeters as opposed to 2.1 or a 1.8. So more water flow equals a more diluted solution, a more diluted mix. But the 2.3 works just fine. And I'm less likely to kill plants. Thank God. So that's my story of the two Melissas and how I eat pressure washing crow on a Saturday. Have you ever had to eat crow? If so, leave a comment. Comment with the word crow, and then feel free to tell me your story. I'm very interested. There is a Melissa number 3 in my life. She's away at a ladies' retreat in Lake Cumberland, Kentucky that she goes to every year with some Christian friends. Normally I would be spending my Saturday with her, so fortunately this didn't interrupt our schedule. All right, speaking of comments, if you don't mind, leave a comment, hit the like button and the subscribe button, hit the bell tab, and you and I will get to spend lots of time together if that's something that you're foolish enough to be interested in. All right, my name is Mike. They call me the Crow, and I'm out.